Welcome to the Two Boots Word Vault podcast. This is a recording of one of my favorite readings. It was 2007 at a Minnesota men's conference at Camp Miller on Sturgeon Lake in Minnesota. I was lucky and honored to be introduced by Robert Bly, the conference founder.
So, a long day, huh? Good day. So tonight we have the great pleasure of hearing poems of Tim Young. And he has lived a long time in near Stockholm, Minnesota. And I wrote a few little words about him. There's superb writing here about relationship, and such writing is a rare gift among men. Besides relationships, there's also a man's friendship with the earth. He lived in the city, I think he was born in the city, and then moved to the country 10 years ago. And this man is able to bless nature. There's no rural sentimentality. These are poems about hunting, about the fox taking grouse, about beavers who build their first lodge too far from the deep water. The next time they do it right, having built in deeper water. Such a beautiful phrase. Having built in deeper water. This man is an adult man whose longing is still fresh. I'm leaning against an old oak beside a high meadow, still stalking the fawn of my desire, so that I might touch her fading spots. Sweet poem about the cutout of an old woman's backside in the garden. This new country ritual shuns the bathtub Madonna for an elderly arse in the bushes. In the berries. So I'm glad to welcome this book into the community of poets. The poet says this book has a lived life in it, with poems for sons, fathers, and grandfathers, even for war. He recalls the time when he was a boy watching a fight between two spiders. The poem attracted much attention during the Iraq War. One spider leaped on with the other's head in his mouth. When I asked my mother about war, she told me, "You're thinking too much." I stood between my mother and my father, thinking.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Well, we've had a lot of talk about the natural world. And I want to start right there. Because I love the single deer path, winding into the wet, tangly night woods, where the whippoorwills and nocturnal squirrels usually fly tree to tree. The hunter moves from the known to the not known. Water drops from leaf to leaf, and the humus grows moist, still, and womanly. I wanted to do this one poem. Here it is. One of the things that I had to learn when you live out in the country and you live with animals and you eat meat, is you have to learn to deal with their dying. Here's a poem about my wife loading her cattle. Those of you who were raised on the farm, you know you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get out and load them in the dark because they know something's going on. So you got to push them into the trailer in the dark. Before 5 a.m. in late November, she stepped into the deep mouth of the trailer, sweetly called to her cattle, "Come on, boys. Look what I have for you." Sniffing the metal and blackness before them, twin steers backed away from her beckon. I squeezed the stall gate against the smaller one's ribs till he leaped toward her voice and went in. "Good boy, good boy." The second steer turned and kicked on a pivot, his brown bulk confused by her words. He resisted the driver's twist of his tail, but he finally had to jump into the darkness. "It's okay, baby." And his mother offered him corn. The floor trembled and the trailer door slammed. Something rumbled in the muscles and the meat. My wife wept as her cattle boys left to the Watkins locker in Plum City. She said nothing more. Neither did I. Then we both drove off to work. That's how it is. I have to give that woman credit. She named every single one of her steers. And she led them off with respect and love, knowing what they were there for. She always told me they had a much better life with me. Every day, when she would feed them, she would pet them and stroke them and talk to them affectionately, knowing full well that at some time she's going to have to lead them into that trailer. So, oh yeah. I tell you what, Don, I'm just as strong. So we're going to go down a little bit here. Quite often, and I did this one summer, every time I went to a music concert or sat in a coffee house or a saloon where they had music, I'd take my notebook and I'd make notes. And some friends of mine are folk singers, kind of the new age folk singers, and one of their most favorite things is to go to Bliss Fest, you know. They're sweet people, but they want to stay in the Bliss Fest. Well, they have a song that the words are, "I wish we could hide down here all night." It's about two lovers, right? So they do it in this real up-tempo, really sweet, jumpy, jolty way. I heard it in a different way. So I'm going to read you this poem. Thunder comes. A flamenco voice calls from the ground. I wish we could hide down here all night until they think we've disappeared and then come back up again. These days, I thirst for more than spirit. I should follow the rain's footprints onto the lake. I've learned to pack my pain in ice blocks, and now it thaws in whiskey-colored water. I can no longer outrun the unknown. As grief's dark creek seeps into my bones, I feel suspended in a water hole with old salmon and leathery peat bog babies. So while I'm sitting down there, floating around in the ancestral mess, you know, with those peat bog babies and those unresolved issues that my ancestors passed on to me. I lost a brother when I was 19 and he was 9. And we never talked about it in the family. And only a few years ago, about 2 years ago, I was on a fishing trip with my father, and he told me for the first time that he wept every single night for a year before he fell asleep. You know, I wish he would have told me that earlier, but, you know, that's the way it was. At least he told me. So, here's a poem for my brother, who's now one of my ancestors on the other side. I dream I went to see my brother John, dead now for 30 years from a tumor. He died at 9 years old, his head radiated and bald, his scar a tire track to his crown. In the dream, John's hair fell like long, dark feathers around an adult face. In his living room, with its walls of coal, he introduced me to his family for the first time. His children smiled. They had his black hair. And his wife brought me biscuits and scones. "This is my grandma's house," he said, "and I came here to care for her garden." He wore the smile of a satisfied man who knows where he's at and loves what he is. I want to visit again that house where John's wife served me tea from a pewter platter. But I've forgotten the way, and John didn't give directions. So while we're still floating around down there in that mysterious place that we all seem to visit every once in a while, a few years ago I saw this newspaper article, and Miguel reminded me of this the other day. So you may have seen this. This is just taken right out of the newspaper. In the belly of a cod. On a Queensland trawler, in the belly of a cod, fishermen found a human head. It may be Jonah, or an Australian Geppetto, or a skull from an Old Norse myth. The Pacific waters are cold and deep and hold songs that lead the cod home. Only some of us can die at our headwaters reef and sing at its thrashing barrier. But maybe for a while, the skull sang in a choir, and his song brought him back to the shore. Keep singing, bottom feeders. Okay. You know, I lived in a log house that was about 150 years old. You know how those old houses are. They have no closets. So this is a poem without closets. In my old farmhouse, there are no closets. We use armoires, dressers, desks, old-fashioned wardrobes to store private things. And our secrets have to stay inside us. No wonder old Scandinavians were so tight-lipped. No wonder they wouldn't travel far from home. On vacation, they would have had to take their secrets with them. It wouldn't be right to leave one behind in the middle of the room. While you're gone, a busybody might drop by and see it, dancing off the ladder-back chair, whistling to the clock's rhythm, or filling the house with its odor of burnt toast or boiled cod. Like kids in a game of hide and seek, they stiffen behind Grandma's stuffed chair. Yet a secret can't resist sticking out its head just as someone walks into the room. I'm thankful for the inventor of closets, and I truly believe in mercy. So maybe it's best that we not see more than those long, tipsy toes peeking from under the living room drapes. That's not it. I'd like to try something with you fellas. I've been commissioned to do a piece for jazz big band for an album that's going to be produced down in Texas, and the composer is a nephew of mine. He's asked me to do a poem so that we can put my voice and my poetry with his jazz band. So I've been working on this summer, and I'd like to try it. I haven't read it before, so I'd just like to try it, see how it feels. And I'm not sure if this is, where this is at in the process, but I'll just go with it. I love the casual jumping of happy frogs and rolling otters in lagoons, the plop of turtles into chocolate water after sunning on a tangle of drift logs. I love the droop of wide willows and maples wiggling on mud bars. This river opens to the rocks and rapids of joy. Even tugboats and white yachts. Their diesel engines rev. They reject moderation, all hesitancy or fear. Here they come, here they come. Rolling in the chorus of barge bangings and grain chute spillings. Let the locks and dams of my anger dissolve. My heart is working overtime. My feet mark the cold shore. Rid my distress. Remove my despair. Let happiness flood my muddy ribcage. Boulders tumble from the limestone bluffs onto pheasant nests and highways, where men work beneath the vigilant buzzards who spin and wobble on the updrafts, where boys sag past boarded Ben Franklins, where I stood in blue smoke while Harleys sped away, where I heard the flap close on a leather wallet before it slipped into the boss's pocket. Like a map or manuscript or Nordic runes, this river follows a dream world and never catches up. Here it comes, here it comes. This river promises more than it gives. Yet, this river is my joy, my grief and my joy. This water, this joy, this sadness. Its hot and cold, swift roiling waters spilling and splashing down its inevitable journey between green islands and white palisades, under impossible bridges and cavorting eagles, always more than a crush and an explosion of dreams, always more than the swell and collapse of happiness. Here it comes, this sorrow, this joy, this rise and demise, these pearls, these clams, these currents in the continent's soil. God's fingers won't stop this river. Okay, one more. I'm just going to continue that flow. This is homage, except I like homage. Homage for Whitman.
Whitman.
Yeah. This day, this arch of birch over the log pile, this large sky as blue as a sunfish fin, this pine grove as green as a hunter's coat, this bluff, this corn, this mud-wrinkled road where immigrant Swedes were captured by the hills, ravines, creeks, and oaks by beauty. This melting snow, this thawing ice, this heart of mine, twisting, turning, dangling, ringing, watching, and singing in the clasp of beauty's large fist. I eat beauty. I breathe beauty. I rub beauty onto my chest hairs. The loping dog, the horned ram, the sleek Ford pickup, the echoing chortle of the strutting tom, the taupe fields, the cut stalks. I love the curve of the contoured rose. The rattling maize leaves slice into my heart. The plum bush swings its thorns into my throat. Beauty infects me. I accept the natural hypodermics, all briars and canes, nettles and thistles, dried and dead and working. These skin strippers, these clothes tearers, the ones who wish me naked with them. I love, too, the stink pots, this manure bed, the nest of a possum, rank with winter refuse, this dormant pile of rot, this embraceable torso, this limp cock. This stirring, cracking, shuddering heart opens for all of them. Come in, maple sap, lanolin, wet resin, cedar scent, birch bark, elder root, ash gatherer, tractor hum, horse fart, skunk tread, and pocket gopher mound dust. Put me in your furry mouth. Wrap me in your diaper. bathe me in your silky hide and scrub me with your stars. Thank you.